Hi everyone, and thanks for joining the webinar today entitled Why CSRs Love the SalesPad Customer Card. My name is Tom Rao and I'm going to be the presenter today. I am the Sales Operations Manager at SalesPad. Going over the agenda a little bit for what we're going to be discussing today. So first off, we want to talk about the life of a customer service representative, what they go through on a daily basis and what's important to them. We're also going to discuss key features of the SalesPad Customer Card specifically. I want to look at a comparison to Dynamics GP Customer Card and also look at the SalesPad Customer Card and look at some of the key differences there. And lastly, we'll go into a demonstration so you can see the SalesPad Customer Card in action. So first off the list, I just want to talk about the life of a CSR. So customer service representative, the things that they're going through on a daily basis, the things that are important to them in a software and what they need to do to stay on task and keep organized. So some of those big things are juggling multiple phone calls. So, there's multiple customers that are calling at a time. They have questions, they want to place orders, all those sorts of things, and it's multitasking. You're going, back and forth from call to call, hanging up with one customer, answering the next one. So you're juggling those calls. With that, you have to stay organized. So you're taking notes, you're writing things down. If you don't have a system that can keep up with you, chances are you're going to have a cluttered mess. You're going to have sticky notes all over your desk, and it's just going to be really hard to stay organized in that sense, which ultimately affects your customers. They also need to know their customers. So if your customer calls you and you're managing their account and they have a question, you better be able to answer it right away. If not, be able to find it pretty darn quickly. So that just goes to knowing your customer better than they know themselves. There's no time. So if you have a customer on the line and they have a question about their account or they want to place an order, if you don't know how to do something or you don't know how to find a piece of information, chances are that's going to look poorly to your customer, and it's just not providing the best customer service overall. Keeping track of notes, this is obviously a huge one, and it goes to having sticky notes everywhere. Many of our customers before they come to SalesPad, you walk around and you see their desks have notes all over the place and they have to remember to go through those. That just leaves a lot of opportunity for error later on or things that could go missed. And setting follow-up tasks. So, a lot of your day is answering phone calls, but also a lot of it is following up. So if you didn't have an answer right away for somebody, you have to manage the time you were supposed to follow up with them, what you were supposed to do, so that way, it's a timely matter, and again, you're just presenting that good customer service. Some of the key features of SalesPad and our customer card and how it differs from Dynamics GP. So, going down the line here, the ability to quickly search and find information. Just being able to quickly look up a customer based upon minimal information. Maybe you have their phone number or their first name or part of their address. They might not always give you exactly the customer number like you need. Also some things like a customer hint, so a quick look into that customer's buying history from you without having to do much digging. Pop-up notes, so as soon as you log into that customer card, it pops open in front of your face. Any pertinent notes or information are right there. Also, any buying history from that customer, so if they have a question on something they ordered previously, you need to be able to quickly find that and give them an answer on that for them to make a decision on buying future things from you. Also, the ability to look into open and historical sales orders. Making the customer card in SalesPad configurable is very easy, so moving things around, it's not static whatsoever. We also give you the ability to have user-defined fields, so if you need to keep track of additional information outside of what GP allows, we give you an unlimited number of user-defined fields. Also, we give you AR information, so a CSR might not need to do anything like collections management, but maybe you need to see how this customer pays their bills, and that might have effect on if you're going to place an order for them or how large of an order they're allowed to place. Just having the ability to look into their aging buckets, write some notes on maybe past due invoices and those sorts of things. Also, complete audit trails. So as users go into the system and they make changes, a lot of times companies want to know who did that. So maybe one of the CSRs went in and changed this customer's payment terms. Well, it's helpful in SalesPad that you can go in and see exactly who made that change. Also, you can directly email out of the system. So again, a big part of a CSR is jumping in and out of multiple systems a lot of time. In SalesPad, they can send an email directly from SalesPad to the customer and have full audit tracking of that and visibility for the future. And that sort of goes into interaction. So not only can you email them, you can log tasks, you can log general notes and find those easily later. You can assign those to people internally so that they get a notification that a task has been assigned to them for follow-up later. And then the last thing on here is resources. So think of this as document management. So if you have a customer contract or something like that you want to append to their customer card to easily find it later and not have to go digging through your internal folders, that's obviously really helpful inside of SalesPad. So comparing the two, the customer card of Dynamics GP to the SalesPad customer card, I want to go into a few things. So first, just taking a general look at the GP customer card. There's basic surface level information. There's very, very little information about this actual customer except for maybe their addresses, some of the contact names, those sort of things, but you really don't get much more than that. And it's not configurable. So a big thing about this screen here is it is what it is. If you want to move things around based on how you have a workflow and the way that you talk to your customers, you're pigeonholed into having the exact way that GP is set up. Inside of SalesPad, it's a lot different than that. You also can't see buying trends. Part of the life of CSR, I want to know what this customer buys from me. I want to know what makes them tick, why they're a good customer for us. And on this card here, you can't see anything like that without having to maybe drill into a couple screens or run a report based on this customer. It would be nice if a customer calls in, I can open their card and look at those sort of things right away. Minimal note-taking capabilities and visibility. So, obviously as a CSR or a salesperson in a customer card, every time you talk to them, you should be logging a note. And this gives you very minimal spots. You have the little yellow note where you can log some basic notes, but again, that's a screen that I have to drill into to access that. Also limited searching functions. So if you talk about, not every customer that calls you knows their customer ID internally. They might give you a first name or last name. You need to be able to quickly find that information based on whatever the customer gives you. A lot of times in these screens, it requires you to drill down into multiple different areas. So, you have to open up 3 different windows to find one piece of information, and by that time, the customer's been on the phone a while, or maybe you had to put them on hold and come back to them. And lastly, a huge thing is only having the ability to have one customer open at a time. So obviously, if you're multitasking, you're probably working on a number of different customers and orders at a time. So having to save and close and clear out of those every single time you want to go to a new one can be cumbersome and can take a lot of time for that CSR. So if we compare that to the SalesPad customer card, taking a look at the screen, there's a lot more information at the surface. And what's nice about this is it's completely configurable. The way it looks on my screen is not the way it has to look for one of your CSRs. If they need more information or less information, we can configure that, and you'll get to see that here. So some basic things. So the same general customer information that you got from the Dynamics GP customer card is there. Customer number, customer name, customer class, shipping addresses, those sorts of things. Obviously very important information, and we do put that on there, just like the GP customer card. What you also have access to is the open order visibility. So you can see any order, quote, invoice that this customer currently has open with us. So whatever hasn't been posted, whatever's still hanging out there, if they call and ask you questions on that, you can quickly search and find that open order and drill into it further, which we'll take a look at. Also having configurable tabs. So you see all the tabs at the bottom. These are different areas you can go into without having to open up whole new windows or having to close out, go into a different area of GP completely. In SalesPad, we give you these tabs and you can order them in whatever way you want. You can turn them off with security if you don't want users to have access to things like AR information or item sales data or anything like that. You can turn them off, or you can just reorder them if you'd like to. So AR information, again, something you can drill into, find this customer's ability to pay you, their aging buckets, any notes about them as it relates to AR information. Their buying history. So anything about this customer, if I need to figure out how many widgets they've bought from us over a certain time period, I can do that in the SalesPad customer card without having to go and run a special report for that, and I can find that quickly. Also, just general sales document history. We'll take a look at how you could search for how much you've invoiced the customer for over a given time period and how you can change that on the fly and give them quick answers. Also some graphical reporting. So right from the customer card, you can see a graph that shows sort of the customer's trends, how they've been buying for you over a certain time period to help you make your decisions when negotiating contracts or placing orders or whatever the case may be. Also, audit records, like I mentioned, are huge. So being able to see any emails that were sent to the customer, any changes made to their customer card, you can see the user that did that. So maybe if they weren't supposed to do that, you can track it back to them and have a conversation. And then lastly on this is interaction logging. We're going to take a look at all of these things, but interaction logging is the ability to keep track of notes, set tasks, send emails, and have a full log of that to be able to find those things later. So very important to a CSR that's juggling multiple tasks or talking to phone calls is to be able to take a note so later they can come back to that account and figure out where they left off or what the last conversation they had with the customer was. So transitioning into the demo of the SalesPad customer card, I'm going to go ahead and jump out of this and open up the SalesPad software to show this. So on your screen, you should be able to see SalesPad Desktop. This is our software for order entry, customer relationship management, inventory, purchasing, those sorts of things. So in this software, again, what we're going to take a look at is finding a customer, looking at information about that customer, and a few key features that we talked about previously. So right off the bat in SalesPad, if I want to find a customer, I can do so in a number of different ways. I do not have to know the customer's name, the customer's state, anything like that. I can know a small piece of information about them. So if they called me and maybe they just gave me their phone number, which was 616-245-1221, and I searched on that, I quickly find the customer that way. Maybe if all I know is that their sales rep, they said, hey, we're Greg's customer, and I do that, I quickly find all of Greg's customers by doing that. So you can find them, with any of these fields up here. If you want to look up their zip code, their state, their city, or a combination of these, you quickly find that customer. On the bottom here, there's also a number of different ways to drill in even further. So maybe you find all of Greg's customers, but you need to look a little bit further. So it's Greg's customer, for instance, so we'll go back up here and say Greg, but then we want to drill down further and look into one of these fields. It's Greg's customer and the contacts person's last name. I'm going to give it a wildcard search and search for Sanderson. So I quickly found Ryan Sanderson with minimal information. I can search in any of these fields that I want to. So I could look at where Tom is the first name of the contact and they're in the state of Michigan. And I could even go further down and do the zip code. And I filter down onto that customer, to which I could open them right from there. Once I'm done with that, I can just simply click out of that and I'm back to square one with all of just Greg's customers. I'm going to go ahead and do a wide open search here and look for all of my customers. And with that, you can do a number of different things. You can reorganize this to be in any order that you want to. You can see a funnel to look for different information. So if I want to see all of my available customer class to search on, I could easily do that, or do it with state, whatever you want. And this grid's fully exportable to Excel. However, the point being that there's multiple different ways to find the same customer with minimal information about them. Once you find your customer and you open them, the first thing that you're going to see if you elect to have this happen is a pop-up note. So in Dynamics GP, you have the little yellow sticky note which you have to drill into. In SalesPad, we make that note pop up so the user has to see it, they have to acknowledge it. In this case, it might be important. This is our best customer, but they're usually asking for large discounts, and you have to go through Tom to get approval for any discounts. So as a CSR, I know when speaking to the customer, hey, if we're going into discounts and they start asking for that, I need to go see Tom first about that. And again, the user can't click in the background, they have to click OK, basically acknowledging that they saw that. Now I'm going to give us a little bit more screen space here and a little bit more real estate to run around in. So if you look at this, I like to break it down in a couple different sections. So at the very top left, we have the same information like you have in the Dynamics GP customer card. So address information, payment terms, those sort of general header level detail. But what's nice in SalesPad is that you can configure this to have whatever fields that you want to. So if I have security access, I can right click and I can click Customize Layout. When I do this, it presents me with all those different user-defined fields that I talked about. So some of these are static, standard user-defined fields in Dynamics GP, but some of these are our SalesPad user fields that I have access to. So I could scroll onto these. Maybe I wanted to see one of these on this grid. All I have to do is drag and drop it into place wherever I want. Or if I just want to adjust windows or anything like that, make things bigger, I can easily do that right from the screen. So it's not static. If a user has a certain view that they want, they can do that. Once you make your changes, you can simply save the layout, or if you don't want to, you can exit out of that. On the right-hand side here, you can see all open sales documents. So obviously, a CSR, a lot of times, customers are going to be calling and asking you questions about a particular order or a quote or whatever it may be. So inside of SalesPad, you could very easily go into here, and maybe they just give you a PO number, and you start typing in there, and they give you the PO number. From there, you could drill right into that order and answer any questions. In fact, in my screen, I can even see the batch. This is currently maybe in the shipped queue or something like that. So you could quickly tell the customer where that order sits and when they should expect to get it. At the bottom here are a number of different tabs, and like I mentioned before, these are all completely configurable. You can move them around, you can turn them off. There's a bunch of ones on here that aren't even showing that the user could have. So we try to give you as much access and surface level detail about your customer to make decisions. One thing before we get into the tabs that I didn't go into is what's also nice is at the very top of the customer card, you can hover on top of their customer number and it'll give you the sales summary for the last 4 years. Now you can determine which data you want to actually see in this. So maybe you don't want your CSR seeing margin percentages or rep freight or anything like that. They just need to see total revenue. Then they can figure out how good of a customer this is and how much money they're spending with us. Going back into the tabs, I'm going to hit on a few of these. So first off, you have all your contact addresses. You have the note area that popped open a minute ago. Maybe just a manager can make changes to this or edit this. You could turn that off for other users. But going into the AR section, so again, maybe CSRs aren't doing a lot of collection, but they at least need to be able to know how well this customer pays or if they're maybe extremely overdue. In this case, I have a banner at the top that shows that this customer is currently on hold. So it's a flag to me that's saying, for some reason they're on hold. If they try to place an order with us, I'm probably not going to allow them to do that. But I can drill into all these things. So I can see things like average days to pay, the last invoice, last payment. I can see all of their aging buckets. What I can also do is drill into the balance here. So if I want to figure out what invoices are making up that balance or any sort of documents that are making up that balance, I can just scroll through here. I could sort it based on the total amount due. So I could basically just focus on the ones that are the highest dollar value. And then I could also see the total dollar value that they owe us overall. Once maybe a customer calls and they have questions about that, we do give you a section in here to actually log notes. So if this customer calls and you talk to them about their invoices and you want to mark a log, that you want to talk to them about the invoices, you can do that. And put that right into here, and you'll have tracking for that in the future. And you can see you can log it as different types. So you can do it an AR note, account update, whatever you want to do. It's going to default to an AR note in this case because I'm in the AR note tab. And then I have full access to see all those notes for the future. Also, as mentioned, obviously it's important for a CSR to be able to see buying trends and history of a customer, because if they call and ask you how many they've bought from you or the price that they normally pay, you need to be able to tell them. So there's two areas in SalesPad Customer Card that you can see this. So under the Item History tab, this is typically an area in any other software where you're going to have to run a custom report and you're going to have whatever fields you want under that. It might take you a while to run it, whereas in SalesPad, you can see all customer buying history right from their customer card, and you can make changes on the fly. You can search for different things on the fly and give your customers quick answers. So if I look into this, again, I'm looking right now at the very top of the last 36 months, and I'm only looking at invoices. But if the customer called me and they wanted to know exactly how many HD40s they bought from this, which is an item number in my system, you can see at the bottom, I'm looking at the last 36 months. I've got about 1,800. Here's our average cost. Here's our average price. You could turn this off so a user couldn't see costs if you didn't want to, but it just allows you to quickly see that. And maybe they say, well, that's nice, but I need to know, what about just the last 24 months? I just want to evaluate how much we've bought over the last 2 years. I refresh that, my totals change, and I can give them an answer quickly. So you're basically telling the customer an answer right away while they're on the phone, which usually is going to leave them pretty happy. What you can also do in here, again, you could swap out different item numbers. You could search on a number of different things. In here, you could even use the group by field if you wanted to drop that down, and I want to group these by a specific item class code or something like that. You could look at orders, invoices, quotes, returns, whatever you want to do right from this screen. Similar to that, maybe they don't care about a specific item. They just want to know how much they've spent with you or you've invoiced them for over a certain time period. In this case, I'm looking at 12 months worth of invoices, and at the very bottom, I see $56,000 that they have that I've invoiced them for. So again, very quickly can find that information. So, and by the way, if you have any questions as we go throughout this, we're going to take a little bit of time at the end to answer those. So there's a question box at the bottom that you can answer. You can put those questions into, and I'm going to stick around for 5 or 10 minutes and answer all the questions too. So make sure to throw your questions in that question box, and we'll get them answered. Also on the customer card is the user fields tab. So in SalesPad, we give you the ability again to have unlimited number of user-defined fields. So as a CSR, there might be certain things you need to know about your customers, and maybe that's a number of different things. For you to make decisions about them, you need to know various things. So what priority is this customer? What's the manager name? You can see I have things like lead source. When does our contract expire? So you're not limited to a certain number of user-defined fields. You can truly have as many as you want in this case. A user could add them to here by simply right-clicking and customizing like we showed before. We also give you graphical reporting data. So again, if you're wondering how good this customer's been, maybe they're not even on the phone. You're just wondering, hey, why aren't they buying from us? Or it seems like they've slowed down. You can see over certain time periods the way they're tracking for you. So it looks like I had a bad couple years. 2014 was good again, and we're actually trending pretty good for this year again. But I can change these again on the fly, change different date ranges, those sorts of things to find that quickly without having to jump out of this completely and do a whole separate report. Other things we can give you, so there's a bunch of pricing tools built into SalesPad, and you can drill in to see the customer's pricing, what sort of pricing models they have set up with you, if in case they have any questions about that. Not going to go too deep into that, but basically it gives you an idea of any type of pricing that you have set up for this customer. If they have a question, you can give them an answer for that. What I want to go into next is interactions. So this is probably the biggest piece in my mind of the SalesPad customer card that differentiates us from the Dynamics GP customer card. Obviously, as mentioned, CSRs are keeping track of lots of things in a day. They're keeping track of notes, of follow-ups, they're sending emails to customer. They need to be able to manage this in one place or in as few places as possible so they don't pile up the notes, they don't miss things later, they don't forget to call a customer back or something like that. So taking a look at the interaction section in SalesPad, this is an area where you can do a number of different things. So from here, you can see ones that I already have in the system. So going down this log, I have things where I've emailed the customer, maybe I've just put a general note or I set a task. All I need to do in order to create a task or a note is click the add button. What this is going to pop up is something very similar to creating something in Gmail, so creating a calendar event in Gmail. You can put any subject in there, so call back the customer. That's automatically assigned to this customer because I'm in their customer card. I could figure out which user at this company that I want to talk to, or which contact at this company. I can even set custom types. So this is a callback, a follow-up. This is a sales call. Maybe I'm going to put sales in there, and I could do different statuses. I also get times. So if I want to actually create this as a follow-up, I need to call them on Thursday at 3 o'clock. I could do that. So it's going to start next Thursday. I can set the time, so let's maybe just go into here and set a time for, let's do 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the morning. You can set your duration, so your follow-up with them. And then also you can either have it automatically assigned to yourself, or maybe if you're a manager, you could assign it to one of your users in here. But maybe you just want to give yourself a note to call back to the customer. Now I'm going to go ahead and click OK. This automatically creates a task, and we'll take a look at where you can manage those tasks from. So on top of that, you could just write a general note. Maybe you don't put a date and time and you just want to write a note that I talked to this customer about pricing. What's nice about this area is that you can use any of these fields to search. So maybe you want to do a wildcard search for whenever I talk to them about pricing. So you can see here my last note was from yesterday, and I need to contact Gene about future pricing. Their current pricing contract expires on August 1st. So I could easily see that by just doing a wildcard search for pricing. What you can also do out of the screen is send emails directly from here. So you just have to configure your email client in the backend settings of SalesPad. But once you do that, you click on New Email, and you get a very Outlook type email box that pops up. And from this, you can choose to send it to the customer. So maybe I want to send it to someone there without having to type in their name. I have all their email addresses on file. I'm going to go ahead and select Tom, click OK. I could do CC, BCC, put a subject in here of quote. And also, if I wanted to, I could connect any attachment. So this will pull up your file explorer, and you can drop in attachments. Maybe it's a quote, maybe it's a brochure, contract, anything like that. And then from here, you just type in your notes of whatever you want to send to the customer and click send from there. Once you send one of those and you have an email, you can actually view that email later. So I could pull it up. If that has any attachments to it, I could go ahead and open that attachment to see the quote that I sent them. On the flip side, for what the customer's going to see, if you take a look at that, I can pull up the email that I sent to them with the quote. They could open it. And I could customize these emails, to look a certain way. So it's just very nice that a user doesn't have to jump out of the system and go into their email client or go anywhere else to actually do any of these tasks. Once you log those, let's say you create a task for follow-up like I did, and you want to see where those are at in the future. So if I go into a calendar called SalesPad Today, this gives you a really good place where you get to manage all of this. So what it's going to do is it's going to pull in all my tasks, and all I have to do in this case is I'm going to go ahead and select, I want to look at everybody's calendar. So I could just do me, I could restrict it in security so CSRs can't look at other people's calendars. But from here I can go ahead and click OK, and it's going to pull in all of the things that I have to do today. Or if I'm a manager, I could see everybody's calendar. So there's a number of things, and think of this as just like Outlook. It's going to pop up a reminder if you have something to do. It's very similar to that Microsoft Outlook feel. So once you go into here, you can see any of those tasks. You can open them. So it looks like today I'm supposed to follow up with Bob. I can open it right from there. Once I give Bob a call, I can mark it as complete, or I could change the time. Maybe Bob didn't answer and I want to call him back later. You could also, instead of scheduling from the customer card, you could schedule right from here. So I want to do a new appointment or anything like that. And a lot of the same functions, you could look at the day, work week, or month, or whatever it may be to find that information. So it gives a CSR a really good spot to manage their day and to look at what they're supposed to do upcoming. And not only do they get the calendar view, but they also get a task type view on the side. So they can just go into here and see what they have to do today and mark those as complete as they go throughout. So interactions, again, is a really, really powerful tool. It's something that you're not going to find in Microsoft Dynamics GP, and it's something that SalesPad has that really helps CSR's life out a whole lot. So they're not managing sticky notes, they're not having to put things on their actual calendar to follow up. They're doing it right from one system. Going back in and touching on the last couple of things, audit trails are obviously huge. So anytime you send maybe an email to the customer, maybe that's an order, they want a copy of it or an invoice or anything like that, we're going to log it right here in SalesPad, and you can actually drill into the email that was sent to this customer. It'll pop it up and you can see exactly what they read. And if a customer calls you and disputes they never received something, you could quickly go back here and see that you sent it, and you can see who sent it on your end and the date. On top of email auditing, you get just a general audit trail. So obviously, your customers are calling a lot, many people are touching them and talking to them. Things might get changed on the customer card. Maybe somebody changed their payment terms, something like that. So I can see here a few different times today when I changed the payment terms, it actually logged that. So if your CSR did something they weren't supposed to, you can figure out exactly who did it and go talk to them about it. The last thing I want to cover here is resources, and I mentioned this in the beginning, but anytime you want to attach something about this customer, so maybe it's your agreement with them or a brochure about them or any information that you don't want to store in an internal file, we can store it right here in SalesPad and you can open that for later. You can actually see here a couple of the emails that I sent had attachments to them, and it actually saved them as resources based on my choice. But if I want to open a copy, maybe I have this customer's vendor agreement with us, I store it right here, it's stored inside of the database, and I don't have to manage it on internal folders at my company. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of this. So, overall, there's just a number of different things in the SalesPad customer card that can be useful to a CSR or for a salesperson for that matter. So you're not limited to seeing very basic, generic information about SalesPad or about your customer. In SalesPad, we give you things like interactions, buying history, we give you graphical reporting information, and we let the user choose exactly what that customer card looks like to them, so they're not stuck doing whatever the system tells them it's supposed to look like. So that concludes the webinar session today. Before we go, I do want to plug going out to our webinar section on our webpage. We're doing lots of webinars upcoming, so make sure to check those out. Also, we'll record this and put it on our YouTube channel along with all the other webinars that we've done, so make sure you check that out. And again, put any questions you have in the question box from today. If there's anything that you want to go offline with and talk about, feel free to email us at sales@salespad.net, and we'll have your sales rep get in touch with you to do future demos. Thank you for joining today.